I would like to call to order the October 8th, 2020 regular Board of Aldermen meeting. Thank you for being here tonight. First up on our agenda will be the invocation. We will begin with a moment of silence. First for Mr. Bill Miller. Mr. Miller spent his life as a public servant to the citizens of Southport and Brunswick County. For our city, he was a member of the Southport Fire Department. He was a founder and charter member of the Southport Rescue Squad and served as assistant chief. His son, Davey Miller, is a Southport volunteer firefighter, and son Charlie Miller is chief deputy for the Brunswick County Sheriff's Department. The city sends condolences to his family. Also, a moment of silence for the passing of Joyce Hewitt. She is the mother of Will Hewitt, who is a member of our planning board. She was an elementary school teacher for many years in Southport. So if we would please stand for a moment of silence, and then I will call on Reverend Lowe Davis for our invocation.
Let us pray. Almighty, most gracious, merciful God, we thank you for the many blessings that you've bestowed upon us and on the city of Southport. We ask tonight that you guide our thinking, our understanding, so that we may make good and right decisions for the city of Southport. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States.
Thank you, Reverend Davis. Next up will be public comment, and I will start with, I have two emails that I would like to read. One at the request of the city manager. It says, good afternoon. I'm contacting you in regards to a fairly traumatic and unexpected situation that happened to me on Monday night. I was attacked by 3 cats while taking my daily walk with my dog. The cats jumped over a fence and attacked me on my leg and hip areas, biting me numerous times. As you can imagine, I was traumatized and bewildered as to why and how this could happen to me. After I was able to retrieve my phone from the scene, in parentheses, the cats were circling my phone and attacking it too, I called Kate for help and advice about my bites. She immediately jumped into action and was able to track the 3 cats down by my information. By doing so, she was able to verify rabies shots and prevent an expensive and long ordeal at the ER. Words are not enough to express my sincerest gratitude for her quick thinking, professionalism, and prompt action. She is a real asset to this small community. I would also like to thank the law enforcement officers that attended the call and took my deposition. They were prompt at the scene and really put my mind at ease. Please let them know that I'm so grateful for them and appreciate what they do for us in Southport. They are the reason why I've chosen Southport as my home. It is obvious they not only care about the community, but also all individuals that call Southport home. She wished to remain confidential. So I applaud Kate and our public safety officers. Second email. I watched your video update today concerning the Yacht Basin traffic pattern. That particular area is the perfect walking spot for visitors and citizens of Southport. For the safety of all pedestrians as well as drivers, I hope the one-way traffic pattern remains. The traffic change was for safety, as we all recall, and in particular for physical distancing due to COVID. The pedestrian corridor is on, in the Yacht Basin, is on the agenda tonight, and we will be discussing that. The traffic seems to be working well through the summer and right now. High tides are an issue, and it's probably best not to drive through that water. The Yacht Basin, the businesses there are a private sector entrepreneurs. They do a fantastic job, and it's the reason that the Yacht Basin is doing so well. So the city, we have responsibilities. We're responsible for the roads, stormwater drainage, debris removal, zoning and ordinance that protect the historic character and to protect the environment. So, and we all like walking the loop. We all love walking in the Yacht Basin. So I'm looking forward to this discussion, and at some point we will have a workshop with the citizens to discuss Yacht Basin issues. So I thank both of these people for their input, and we appreciate all input from our citizens, whether in person or by email. Madam Clerk, next on public comment, please.
I have a letter from Dawn Pieper. She says, "To the Board of Aldermen and Mayor Hayden, we want to bring this matter to your attention because of our concerns. Approximately 2 weeks ago, myself and my close neighbors who have read and signed this letter heard loud banging and crunching noises in what sounded like my backyard. Several large excavators were directly behind my house, tearing down large trees and everything else in their way. There's a small easement path directly behind our neighborhood, the landing of Southport, between our backyards and the Baldhead Island Ferry parking lot. We have concerns that the annihilation and loss of trees and underbrush behind us will cause these problems. 1, increased flooding. 2, increased noise level, already noticeably increased and problematic. 3, increased wind destruction to our homes, yard, and trees. 4, increased smell when the spoil is deposited in that area. And 5, decreased home value saleability. I have brought this devastation and our fears up to Mark Spencer, who has seen the damage and sent our city manager and planning director to view the destruction. They told me that Baldhead Island would replace our barrier with tall trees and a high fence, or both. So far, all they have done is to mound up dirt piles that are not even high enough to block car lights or the view of the buildings and its lights from my back porch and bedroom window. Unfortunately, I am unable to be at the Alderman meeting to present this information and these concerns myself due to previously scheduled arrangements related to the early AM flight Friday. Please help us. This is Dawn Pieper, Cindy and Wayne Proctor, Jerry and Sherry Dove, and Linda Willis." And then,
Thank
next,
you. Okay, who's next?
Paul Swenson.
Hello, Mr. Swenson. If you just state your name, address, remove your mask, and make sure the microphone is on. Happy to have you here. Mask off. Thank you.
Oh, there you go. I can't read it with my mask on, my glasses. I'll try to be brief. I'm here tonight to express concerns about the new one-way traffic pattern on Yacht Basin. Myself and my wife, Maria, do not represent any other group, business, or property owners on the Yacht Basin area. Our views expressed this evening are solely our own. When the one-way traffic pattern was presented to us by Chief Coring, we expressed some concerns about the change, but we understood that Southport wanted to create a safer situation for pedestrians in that area. After a few meetings with the chief, we told him that we were on board. The day the traffic pattern was implemented, I was down at Provision Company, and I was walking out and I looked down Yacht Basin Drive, and I watched the tidal waters creeping up from Fishy down to Provision Company. And I said to myself, I should have had a V8. And I should have saw it coming. We all should have seen it coming, but none of us did. Mean high water, according to NOAA, is 4.4 feet in Southport. A tide of over 5.1, the intersection by Fishy being the lowest point in the Yacht Basin, begins to flood. tides of 5.3, 5.4, the water begins to flood Yacht Basin Drive towards the provision company. During major tidal events, the flooding continues all the way up to Caswell Street. Here's a scenario. You're driving your vehicle down Bay Street, you round the corner onto Yacht Basin Drive, and the road is covered in tidal water. A tourist, not knowing, will drive through it. Yahoos in their truck will do the same. But locals, people in new cars, golf carts, sports cars, anyone with any sense makes a U-turn and is now driving the opposite direction down a one-way street. The new one-way traffic pattern leaves no alternative but for drivers to navigate their vehicles through salt water or commit a traffic violation. And that's the issue at hand. Here are some options I would like the board to consider. First, go back to the original two-way traffic plan. This allows an escape route in the event of tidal flooding. Second, and most importantly, widen Bay Street by 5 feet to accommodate the new pedestrian walkway. I have a plat map graciously donated by Tidewater Surveying that shows Southport has a 50-foot right-of-way in that area of the Yacht Basin. This is my gift to you. Actually, the City of Southport paid for this plat. Okay. Third, I would like to see this a lower speed limit in the Yacht Basin to 10 miles per hour. And fourth, and this is a sticky one for me, at the corner of Moore and Yacht Basin Drive by Fishy Fishy, leave in place the existing no left turn and do not enter sign. This would reduce the amount of two-way traffic on Yacht Basin Drive, which is the big issue because it's so narrow, by about 90%. But I do want to point something out. There are 11 businesses on the Yacht Basin, 9 of which can only be reached by using the new one-way traffic pattern. That would be the Yoga Dock, Frying Pan, Old American Fish, the Twin Towers, Provision Company, Flavors, the new restaurant, the Pilots, and Southport Water Tours. Okay, I have one more scenario for you. You're on your way to the Yacht Basin, traveling on Moore Street, and you fail to make a left on Caswell to get down to Bay. You reach the end of Moore Street, and now you must make a right turn and continue on to Brunswick Street. With the new one-way traffic pattern on Short Street, you must continue to the Marina parking lot, then go to West Street, West Street, and make a right. Then you proceed to back to Caswell and continue back down to Moore Street to make the loop. You have just traveled almost a mile. Actually, it's 0.8 miles, I measured it. And all the time, you've been driving through a residential area. So my point is, if Southport decides to keep the no left turn by Fishy Fishy, it's imperative to have directed signage at the corner of Moore and Caswell for the other businesses on the Yacht Basin. I'm not asking for to name the businesses, but some kind of signage that says dining or shops or whatever you want to say, whatever you think is appropriate there. And also remove the pine tree that's covering the signage that's already there. Okay. Don't take my word for everything I've said tonight. There's a title event this month. I suggest city representatives witness the event firsthand, and it can be quite a show. Thank you. I'll leave this with John.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Do you know the date of the title event by chance?
What was that?
The date. Do you know the date of the title event?
I think it starts around the 16th of October and goes to about the 21st.
Okay, great. Thank you
You
so
have to check.
much. Thank you for your input.
Mayor, I had a citizen's comment sent to me, and that's what my husband just dropped off. I printed it out if I
Please.
could read that.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. Hello, all. My Myself and my partner, Robert Frankenfield, are the owners of Southport Boat Rentals and Water Tours. We are also the owners of 112 Yacht Basin Drive, formerly Tatum Seafood. We are in favor of the new one-way road and pedestrian traffic lane on the Yacht Basin Drive in front of our business and property. The one-way road allows for a steady and safe flow of traffic, and the pedestrian lane allows for a safe walking space for all of the foot traffic. This area has seen a huge increase in traffic from both over the past 10 years, and we believe a change in traffic patterns infrastructure is needed to keep up with the increase of traffic while also keeping everyone safe. We are available for questions anytime over the phone, email, or in person. Thanks for listening. Eli Bostic and Robert Frankenfield, Southport Boat Rentals.
So, very good. Thank you. Eli Bostic is his grandmother was from my hometown, so he's a fine young man. And these are great suggestions, and we certainly will take them all into consideration. Anyone else, Madam Clerk?
No, sir, that was all.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you. Next up on the agenda, item E, is approval of the agenda. And for those who don't have a copy of the agenda in front of them, or for those at home, there are 8 items. Well, on mine, there's 8 on the agenda. 9 on the consent agenda, yes. So there'll be, we have a public hearing. There's a plat approval, appointment of planning board, purchase of a fire engine, and Mr. Hargrove has 3 items concerning the sewer line extension, the Yacht Basin, pedestrian corridor, and the city dock discussion. So I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Mr. Lombardi, and then Mayor Pro Tem. Any discussion on the agenda? Okay. All in favor? Okay. Motion carried. Thank you. Item F is a presentation from the Rotary Club. Mr. Dave Morgan, come up. Thank you. He's going to present the city with a check for something special.
Thank you. I have a pocket full of money tonight for the city.
I don't see the check.
Okay.
He didn't bring it.
Yeah, I wish I had money every month for the city. A lot of you know that the Rotary Club does a lot of things around town to raise money to support our local charities and causes. And one of the items that we have as a fundraiser are these 2 telescopes down on the waterfront. And I happen to be the chief mechanic for the telescopes. They have some rough times with the salt water here, but we managed to keep them going to bring in those quarters. An old deal with the city that goes back probably about 15 years is that we supply we give the city 30% of the take of the quarters, and I have all these quarters with me tonight. And for that, you guys kind of help us keep these in place. Sometimes they get moved around from hurricanes and so forth, but you know, they're a good deal for the tourists that come so they can see the water, and they put quarters into them. And the funds we use for these, they're mostly earmarked for the what Rotary calls RILA. It's Rotary Youth Leadership Awards. And these awards go to 2 to 3 juniors at South Brunswick High every year. And we send them to a long weekend up on the Crystal Coast where they join other kids from all over the district, and they spend a weekend of training and something a little different from what they normally get in school. So thank you, City, for being a partner with us. And who wants a bag of quarters? Good to see you, Joe Pat. Actually, it's a check. We cash all the quarters. All right. So don't spend it all in one place.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Thank you for your work with the Scouts, and the motto for Rotary is service above self, and they certainly demonstrate that. Next up, I'll read the ethics statement. If any members know of any conflict of interest or the appearance of a conflict of interest with respect to matters on the agenda, please so state at this time. Yes.
Street. Mr. Eckert on 13th Street. I represented him in transferring that property. That contract is complete and closed. Should I abstain from anything on that?
If you've closed on the contract and you're not receiving any kind of consideration for this, no, you're fine.
Okay, thank you.
Next will be the approval of the consent agenda. Mayor Pro Tem and Alderman Spencer. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Okay, motion carried. I would like to, I'll come up and read two proclamations and one resolution, and then I'll also have Chief Drew join me for a resolution to read as well. First proclamation is Emergency Nurses Week. This is something, of course, personal and professional for me. The work that emergency room nurses do all over the country, all over the world. Emergency Nurses Week is from October 11th through the 17th. October 14th is Emergency Nurses Day. Whereas there are approximately 167,000 emergency room nurses in the United States who have expertise in caring for all emergency patients across the spectrum of the lifespan, ushering life in at birth and allowing for dignified death. And whereas emergency nurses are highly trained to recognize life-threatening problems and solve them on the spot, playing a vital role in treating patients in emergency situations, caring for those most in need, and saving lives daily. Whereas these characteristics provide a broad scope of practice for the delivery and complex care within a limited time frame to healthcare consumers of all ages and backgrounds. And whereas through research, education, and emergency nursing advocacy, the Emergency Nurses Association supports and honors the advancement of professionalism of emergency nurses everywhere. And whereas let us join together to honor extraordinary acts of service, compassion, and commitment that emergency nurses provide to patients every day, and especially to honor the emergency nurses at J. Arthur Dozier Memorial Hospital. Now therefore I, Joseph P. Hayden, Mayor, do hereby proclaim October 11th through 2020 as Emergency Nurses Week. So we applaud all nurses, especially our emergency room nurses. The next proclamation is why many of us are wearing pink today. This also is personal and professional. I've treated many patients with breast cancer. My two aunts are breast cancer survivors. My mother deceased from breast cancer. So I know you all know someone who has been affected by this disease and their family. So we think of those survivors and those who we have lost. Whereas October is National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, which is an annual campaign to increase awareness of this disease. Whereas National Breast Cancer Awareness Month remains dedicated to increasing public knowledge about the importance of early detection and treatment. Whereas it is estimated by the National Cancer Institute that there will be 276,480 new cases of breast cancer diagnosed in 2020, and 42,120 will die from the disease. Whereas due to improved early detection with advanced technology such as 3D digital mammography, which is available at Dozier Memorial Hospital, and through medical research and more innovative therapeutics and surgical intervention available, there is a 90% 5-year survival rate as compared to 80% in 1990. Whereas with the utilization of annual screening, early detection, and advanced therapies, breast cancer patients are living longer. We honor and celebrate their resolve, their resilience, and hope for the day when medicine and its institutions, including the National Cancer Institute, major cancer centers such as Sloan Kettering and MD Anderson, as well as university medical schools such as UNC School of Medicine in Chapel Hill, find a cure. Whereas this October we recognize breast cancer survivors, those battling the disease, and also their family members and friends who are also affected by this disease and are a tireless source of support and comfort. Whereas we, the citizens of Southport, the Board of Aldermen, the city manager, the city attorney, and all city employees will wear pink ribbons, pink clothing, including pink Chuck Taylor All-Stars, to honor and celebrate our neighbors, family, and friends who are breast cancer survivors, and quietly mourn and remember those whom we have lost. Therefore, I, Dr. Joe Padahado, Mayor of the City of Southport, do hereby recognize all of the above and encourage all citizens, government agencies, private businesses, nonprofit organizations, and all other interested groups to join in activities that will increase awareness and support all entities that promote prevention, early detection, treatment, and research concerning breast cancer, and do so hereby proclaim October 2020 Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Chief, if you would stand right with me as I read this one, and then I'll have you read the final one. Chief Drew hosted, as part of Fire Prevention Week, Insurance Commissioner for the state of North Carolina, Mike Causey, who is also our state fire marshal. He's a dynamic and inspiring leader and was promoting programs for fire prevention and safety in elementary schools. His staff donated the Edith coloring book. It's precious, wouldn't you say? It's fantastic. And it's an acronym, and I did not know this. Exit drills in the home. Very important, exit drills in the home. I'm proud of our firefighters and how over the years they have gone into schools to promote fire safety and fire prevention. Stop, drop, and roll. Right, Chief? I love that. I'll read the resolution, and the irony of the day and why it's in October, Fire Prevention Week, is the Chicago fire of October 1871, and actually started on this day in October 8th of that year. Whereas the Southport Fire Department is committed to ensuring safety and security of all those living and visiting in our fire district, and whereas fire is a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally, and kitchens are the locations where people are at greatest risk of fire, and whereas the National Fire Protection Association has documented through its research a significant increase in kitchen fires, and due to this fact, it is important that everyone cook with care and watch your heat while cooking in your home in case of a fire. And whereas the firefighters of Southport Fire Department are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of residential and commercial structural fires and fire-related injuries through prevention and protection education, and whereas the residents of Southport Fire District are responsive to public education measures and are able to take personal steps to increase their safety from fire, and whereas being prepared in the event of a kitchen fire will have a positive effect on the home fire problem. Whereas each home fire that is prevented in Southport Fire District is an opportunity to prevent painful injury and costly property damage. And whereas the 2020 Fire Prevention Week theme, Serving up fire safety in the kitchen effectively serves to remind us all of the simple actions we can take to stay safer from fire every day. Therefore, I, Joseph P. Hatem, Mayor of the City of Southport, do hereby proclaim October 4th through the 10th, 2020 as Fire Prevention Week throughout this city, and I urge all citizens of Southport to heed the important safety measures from the Southport Fire Prevention Team and the Office of the Fire Chief, and to support the many public safety activities and efforts of the Southport Fire Department. And now Chief Drew will read a resolution concerning his fire department and breast cancer awareness.
Thank you, Mayor. We've been out all week doing a lot of virtual things, and I'd like to thank Lisa and Randy for their help with our videos. We've released a video message on kitchen fire safety every day this week in conjunction with fire prevention, and we've also participated with the Kiwanis Reading Corner, and we've been to talk to the Rotary Club, Southport Christian School, Southport Baptist Preschool, and so we just want to get the message out. If you do not have a working smoke alarm in your home, please contact Southport Fire Department and we will come and install it for free. The alarm has a 10-year battery, and we would love to make sure you're protected from fire. Early warning devices is the key to getting out of a fire if there is a fire in your home. I'm going to read a resolution. Some of our firefighters, you will see, are wearing pink shirts tonight that are here, and we appreciate them being here. Like the mayor said, breast cancer is very near and dear to my heart because I had two grandmothers that experienced the dreadful disease. And if you would like to join us, Mayor, and anyone else, Monday, October 26th at 11 a.m., we will be painting a fire hydrant across from Dozier Emergency Room, and we have contacted the radiological department there, and they're going to be assisting us, and it will be painted pink just to remind people to get their exams and that early detection. All right, so this is a resolution for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, City of Southport Fire Department. Whereas cancer affects millions of people all over the world, and the fact that there is a proven correlation between firefighting and cancer confirm both the need to eradicate the terrible disease, and until a cure is found, promote prevention and help alleviate the suffering of its victims. And whereas in 2020, the American Cancer Society expected about 2 million new cancers to be diagnosed in the United States. This year, about 600,000 Americans are expected to die of cancer, more than 1,500 people a day. And whereas cancer is one of the deadliest diseases of them all, we need to come together to fight it, which means more of us who haven't been affected need to step up and promote prevention and early detection, urging women to have routine checkups and mammograms. Whereas Southport firefighters normally wear blue shirts 365 days a year for the month of October, they will don pink shirts to show our support of breast cancer awareness, early detection, and prevention of this horrible disease. Therefore, be it resolved that the Southport Fire Department gives an image of hope and encouragement to those battling breast cancer. The department stands united with them. You are not alone in your fight. The City of Southport encourages, recognizes, and supports the Southport Fire Department in their efforts of promoting early detection and prevention of breast cancer awareness. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda will be item 1, Bonnet Way annexation, public hearing submitted by Bonnet Way HOA. And what I would like to do at the advice of council is we could have a motion for the mayor to open and close public hearings without further motions. We can do them both at the same time.
The law doesn't require that the board, it's always been our custom, but the law doesn't require that the board make a formal motion to go in and out of public hearings. You can make a motion, if you would, to just authorize the mayor to open and close each public hearing.
Pro Tem, motion and second by Lo Davis. Any discussion?
For
Oh, Tom. I thought we was ventriloquists with these masks. You know, you can't tell who's saying what. They both sound the same. Well, Lowe's always hollered at me, so I just assumed it was her. So, okay, all in favor? Okay, motion carried. All right, we will go into public hearing on Bonnet Way, and we'll also be in public hearing on 116 East 13th Street annexation. City Planner, Mr. Lloyd, Thomas Lloyd.
All right, so I think everybody's pretty familiar with this annexation. We've had it at the board a few times. It's a property located off of Robert Rourke, and it's on Forest Oaks Drive. It's 7.681 acres, and it consists of 32 townhomes, as well as HOA common area. The petition is signed by all 32 property owners. They're looking to get the sewer and water rates for inside the city, because currently they have water and sewer from the city, but they just want those more favorable rates being citizens. The petition has been verified by the city clerk that it is sufficient. We have also advertised as properly noticed in the September 23rd edition of the pilot. It's time now for the board to hear any comment from the public if there is any, and I can certainly answer any questions if anybody has any.
Okay, any comments from the public concerning this annexation, or any questions from the board? All right. Now I will close the public hearing on this annexation. Now I will entertain a. So what's your pleasure? I'll entertain a motion. By Alderman Davis that we annex Bonnet Way. Is there a second? Okay, second by Alderman Sharkey. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Now we will go into the public hearing concerning 116 East 13th Street. Mr. Lloyd.
All right, so this is a property on the corner of East 13th and North Atlantic. It is 0.46 acres and is currently vacant and is also currently zoned business district. It is non-contiguous to the city limits. And at the August 13th meeting, the board recognized the receipt of the petition to adopt a resolution requesting the clerk to verify the sufficiency. The clerk has verified that the petition is sufficient. And at last month's meeting, the board adopted a resolution setting a public hearing for this meeting, and that was also advertised in the September 23rd edition of the pilot. I have gotten a request from this property owner to continue the consideration of the annexation to the November 12th meeting. They have a rezoning that's going through the planning board right now, and the planning board will be deciding a advisory recommendation on that rezoning at next week's meeting. So it will be coming to y'all in November, the rezoning will be, and the property owner just was requesting that both decisions would be considered at the same meeting.
Is there any public comment on this particular item? Any board questions? Okay, all right. So, do we need a motion? Okay, so we'll just close the public hearing, and we will deal with this at our November Board of Aldermen meeting. All right. Thank you, City Planner. appreciate that, Dale. Item 3, also with the city planner, it is the consideration of the Highland Park Phase 3 preliminary plat. And if you haven't driven back there, it's a lot of open land, a lot of building going on, so it looks like an interesting project. So, city planner.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Southport Development Associates has filed for their preliminary plat approval for Phase 3 of the Oaks at Highland Park. And the preliminary plat essentially is the construction documents for a subdivision. And this project has been in the works for a while. They got Phase 1 approved in May of 2015, consisting of 6 lots, and then Phase 2 also consisted of 6 lots, and that was approved in December of 2018. They are proposing to extend the existing Raven Glen Drive to Atlantic, and they are looking to construct the infrastructure for 19 additional lots on that property, and this will be the final phase. The zoning of the property is R10, so each lot does have to be 10,000 square feet and must conform to the criteria in Article 25 Major Subdivisions. So just so everybody's aware, this application was submitted as part of the previous UDO, so they are grandfathered in under those standards. The average lot size in this subdivision is 10,897 square feet. They will have the applicable setbacks of R10, which are 25 front, 8-foot side, and 20-foot rear. There has to be 75 feet of frontage, except on a cul-de-sac, where there has to be a minimum of 40 feet frontage, provided that 50 feet from the property line has a width of 75 feet. All of these lots meet the requirement, and they also meet the requirement for open space for R10 major subdivisions. They are using a portion of their detention ponds to meet that ratio, and 23,690.51 square feet is required. They have 38,417. As far as the infrastructure goes, they're proposing a 60-foot right-of-way and 5-foot sidewalks on both sides. The city consulting engineer will need to review these plans, prior to the start of site work, and they'll do that in consultation with the Public Works Department. The Planning Board reviewed this plat at both its August 13th and September 17th meetings. They found that it meets the standards of approval, and they recommend that the Board of Aldermen approve it, and staff does as well. So if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Yes.
Thomas, I seem to recall the discussion and the notes that I read from Planning Board review, that there may be a possibility that part of the earlier subdivision, there was a question on whether or not we were dealing with all city limits, or was some of the development
Yeah, so I can explain
outside?
that. Yes, so Highland Park Avenue is actually not a city road, because if you look at the site plan, the stuff on the left, if you're looking at it, of Highland Park Avenue is in the city limits. That part of Highland Park is in the corporate limits. Then the stuff across the street is not in the corporate limits. So where the discussion is, in the future, who would maintain Highland Park Avenue, since all of it is not in the corporate limits and all of it is not a city road, and it was never accepted by the city. That's kind of what the question was from the developer standpoint.
Does he have a response on how he's going to address that
Well,
before we extend his development?
I mean, the portion of his development is going to be in the city limits, and that'll be a city road and a public road. But as far as that access road of Highland Park Avenue, I mean, I'm sure it's probably not up to city standards right now. It's not completely in the city limits. Maybe Mike can further explain, but Mike, wouldn't it have to be in the corporate limits, or we would at least, at the very least, I would think, have to have an easement to maintain that?
Yes, it would. But what you're considering tonight is all in the city limits. Is that not correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Raven Glen Drive is completely in the corporate limits.
Yes, but you're right. We could not just take over and maintain a street not in the city limits, right?
Do we, to follow up on that, is part of their subdivision submittal, an agreement to maintain Highland Park Road as a private street? Is that a requirement?
Well, they're not doing that portion. They're doing Raven Glen Drive.
But Highland Park exists, right?
Yeah, it exists.
Okay.
I mean, I think it would be between the property owners on both sides. Because, I mean, a big portion of that is, half of that's in the ETJ, the other side of that road of Highland Park Avenue.
Okay. It's, all right. I was thinking, trying to remember, I thought the UDO, the subdivision plat, when they submitted their subdivision plat, they had to have an agreement in there to maintain the road. The HOA is going to agree to maintain the road. Is that not correct? Am I making that up?
No, they have to have sample agreements in there. I mean, that's something we can address for the final plat before lots are recorded.
Okay.
But I can dig back, because that's in phase 1. The stuff about
Right.
Highland Park Avenue is phase 1.
Right.
So I can dig back and see what we can find.
I'm just concerned in 5 or 10 years when the road's tearing up, they're going to come back to us and want us to do something about it. And I thought that there was something in the old subdivision ordinance where they had to where they had to have.
I think they have don't they have a small homeowners association? Yeah, I think they've probably got that covered in the homeowners documents.
They do, but like I said, the other side of the road is in the ETJ.
Right.
So, I mean, they could at least do a portion of it, I'm sure, if they work together with everybody.
Right.
But
Okay.
it's something that could come up in the future. You're exactly right.
And for the new road, was it Raven Ridge, Raven Glen?
Raven Glen Drive.
Raven Glen. So there's something in here from the developer, I guess, talking about that he'd like to have the city accept that road when the development is 60 to 70% complete.
Yeah.
Is that typical? Do we have a normal policy for that? Does that meet our policy, I guess?
I believe our policy is 60% complete.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I thought maybe since he was asking that perhaps it was something outside the norm.
What is the primary access to this road, Ravens Glen? Is it off Atlantic or Highland Park?
I mean, there's 2 accesses, so it's Highland Park and Atlantic.
And this proposed section, it's all going to be one homeowners association for the stormwater system? I would be more comfortable personally if we could find some more, at least a plan to resolve the Highland Park Road decision, or what their plan of action is to bring it, how they're going to care for it, or if they're going to make plans to bring it up to city standards and get it accepted by the city before we expand the amount of houses that go in there. Because unless you have good plans laid out, the homeowners end up bearing the brunt of this indecisiveness and unclear path ahead, and we might be able to get it resolved early instead of late. So I'd rather defray, I'd rather wait until we could get more information from this developer on how he's going to get organized or get his current homeowners organized to address their streets.
Since this is phase 3 and Highland Park's part of phase 1, I'm not sure we even have the ability to do that, do we, Mr. Attorney?
No, that's my question. I'm not sure I understood. Is Highland Park, is the entire width of Highland Park, I know you say part of it's in the ETJ and parts in the city limits, but was that part of the subdivision itself?
It was an existing road.
Yeah, so it's an existing road, so, I don't believe you have anything in your, it kind of goes back to the old Osprey Landing thing, although this is a very small subdivision. It's a permitted use in there, and I don't think we can require them to maintain a road outside of their subdivision. That's why I was wanted to know if it was within their subdivision or not. I think it just provides access to their subdivision.
That's correct.
Okay.
Road, it's a private road, is that correct?
Like right away, but it's not a city-maintained road. It's not a Powellville road.
John, it was dedicated probably 100 years ago. The Highland Park Avenue was shown on a very, very old plat, and it was just never opened. And then when some people bought some lots, property in this area, they opened the road. It is a public right-of-way in that it was dedicated to the public, but it's never been accepted by any governmental unit or anything.
Any further discussion, any further questions? Okay. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'd move approval of Highland Park Phase 3.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Allen. Is there a second? A second by Madam Alderman Davis. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Just to clarify, Mike, Laura's question was delaying for that, but you're saying that that's not even part of that subdivision.
Asking Thomas, I didn't think it was because that old road has been platted forever there. I think it was maybe like 1914 or somewhere back in that area. It's always been platted, but never opened until people started buying some property there. So, yeah, I wasn't sure if any of it was within the subdivision. That's why I wanted to ask Thomas if it was. Yeah.
I'm trying to wrap my head around this, though. If we're going to have a stormwater sewer system installed in that area, we're going to have water and sewer lines that are provided by the city, and work needs to be done on a road, then, what happens if there's no agreement, no understanding on how to fix roads if you have to dig them up to make a repair or something?
I feel like it was dedicated to the public back before there was anything like subdivision ordinances or anything like that. So I think the city would have the authority, if they needed to do that. I don't know that they necessarily have the duty, but they would have the authority if they needed to do any work on that road or anything. In order to facilitate the city system and everything. But right now, I think half of it's in the city and half's not, maybe. Okay. So, you're in the situation where, although you may not require this property owner to improve that road and maintain that road because he doesn't own it, you can, though, still require him to comply with all your stormwater, whatever he has to do to comply with your stormwater regulations and everything. So if that necessitates some action by him on that road or whatever, you can require him to comply with your own ordinances as part of the subdivision approval process. And I think that's what Thomas was saying, that your engineers and everything are going to be checking out.
Plus, as I understand it, before us is phase 3, which doesn't have anything to do. It's on. But not in front of my mouth. Okay, phase 3, while it comes off of Atlantic Avenue and it does go to Highland Park Road, Street, Avenue. That's not what we're dealing with tonight. We're dealing with the new road that is to be cut, and it's not Highland Park Road. Or Highland Park Road's already been built.
Right. I understand that.
It's been around a long time.
I want us to try to look at it. How do we systematically bring properties into the city?
I think that's
Because when you have this kind of, jigsaw of what's in the city and what's not, and then you have residents paying the same taxes on one side of the road and the other side of the road, but maybe service levels are going to be different because they're not on a city street, that I think, that concerns me because I don't think it's a good approach to, you know, city expansion. I'm just trying to figure out, can we resolve that or work on it now before we agree to expand in this area of town?
Well, they're only required to meet our ordinances, you know, for their subdivision. You know, we can't require them to maintain or fix a road that's not even, that they don't own and is not even within our city limits. Now, your question about annexation, yeah, used to, it would have been very easy to do forced annexation in order to square up our boundaries, but the legislature is basically taking all that power away from us, you know. And that's why you see so many of these voluntary annexations that's been coming up lately, you know.
Mike, if the road is dug up for lines, we have to fix it, right?
No, not Highland Park Avenue. We have no responsibility to maintain that.
So it's going to remain unmaintained? I mean,
Well, it's outside the city limits, and we have never accepted any responsibility for it. That road was improved by some builders and developers in order to build the houses alongside of it. Okay. But, you know, right now, yeah, we have not accepted it into our system. It's kind of the situation where maybe a developer subdivides land and they keep the roads private. Okay, we have no duty to do anything with that. It's going to be up to, you know, their property owners association to do that.
Isn't that the case with Cades Cove? Do I recall that correctly?
If we've taken the roads into Cades Cove, have we yet? No.
That's my experience. I'm part of that HOA organization that's currently paying to keep them at a minimum standard until we can get them at a greater level so that the city will accept them. And that's a very challenging thing to do for a homeowners association. And I wouldn't want you to have one road, Ravens Glen, get accepted and not Highland Park when they're connected like that. That I think is what's really challenging to me, is that are we really going towards an inequity within that little region because of right now we already have this odd circumstance of Highland Park. It's phase 3, so to me it sounds like it's part of the same development. I mean, it got started by somebody else, I understand, and that gentleman died, but this person has taken it over.
But
right?
phase 1 and phase 2, there were lots that were subdivided on an already existing road. The road was not part of the subdivision. It was already there.
Who is deeded to? Who is the road deeded to? Does anybody know?
It's a public right of way. In fact, if you read back in the notes from the fellow up there, his great grandfather, I believe, was R.I. Mintz, and he owned that area back in the early 1900s, and he platted that area into, it's been replatted some, but he platted into a million little tiny lots, I mean really small lots, and dedicated Highland Park Avenue at that time. And he dedicated it for public use, but at no time has any city or the city or the county or anybody, you know, accepted that road to maintain it. We've not been able to really because it's not in our city limits. But it was dedicated to the public.
Okay, any further discussion on this somewhat nebulous road? Thank you for bringing that up. Where were we?
Just say it one other way. You know, a property owner could back then, when you have no subdivision ordinances and things like that, he could take his tract of land and record a plat and dedicate roads on that plat so people could get to their land. You know, that's what he did here. But that in no way legally obligated a municipality to accept that. And that's the situation here. He platted the land, he showed lots on it, and he said, here, I've dedicated this right of way. If you want to open it up and get to your lots, you know, you can. I'm dedicating it, but in no way did that obligate the town or the city to do anything at that time.
We have a motion and a second to, I believe, to accept this preliminary plat. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, 5-1. Motion carried. Thank you. Item 4. This is the appointment of the city alternate position for the planning board. Mayor Pro Tem Mosteller.
Thank you. We have a city alternate position that has come open, and the rules call for the liaisons and the planning board chair to interview, and I'm always appreciative of the volunteerism and the amazing time and talents that our citizens are willing to share with us. We were fortunate to have qualified candidates volunteer for the betterment of their community. The liaisons and the chair would like to recommend Gustavo Mabelli. Mr. Mabelli has worked as a senior project manager in planning for Mecklenburg County in the past, and he has taught urban design, both of which are valuable assets as a volunteer serving on the planning board. And I'm grateful for that, and I'd like to make a motion to appoint Mr. Mabelli to the city alternate member position on the planning board.
We have a motion and a second by Mr. Allen. Any further discussion concerning this appointment? Okay, hearing none.
Oh, just one second.
Oh, yes.
How many applications did you have on that position?
We had 2.
2, okay.
Any further questions or discussions? Okay. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. And congratulations to Mr. Mabelli.
He was here, but he had to leave.
Item 5, purchase of new fire engine. Fire Chief Charles Drew. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor and board members. You have a proposal in your packet. I won't bore you with reading it, but I'll just highlight some things. Over the past year, the department's been working with several different fire truck companies to create a bid specification for a new first out engine for our Castle Beach substation. The money for this new engine was reserve money that came forward when we merged with the Yopon Beach Fire Department. So we have money set aside for this purchase. We have currently $300,000 set aside. We met with 3 fire truck companies, and I created a table, and it's in your packet. We met with Pierce Manufacturing. Rough estimate of their fire engines was $750,000 to $780,000. We met with Safe Industries, and their rough estimate was $680,000 to $750,000. And then we also met with C.W. Williams and Rosenbauer, and their estimate was $415,000 to $430,000 for the purchase of a truck. Fire officers met after we met with these 3 companies, looked over the specifications, and the particular specification that we chose was the one C.W. Williams and Rosenbauer. The last 3 purchases of a truck, our tanker, our 2007 fire engine, and our 105-foot platform truck, all were Rosenbauer built. We've not had any problems or issues with those trucks. An added benefit to this specification is it can be built and delivered in 180 days. I gave you a brief picture in your packet of the current picture of all of our first out engines. 3 of those engines first out, the one at the downtown substation is a 1995 engine. It's 25 years old. The Long Beach Road substation is a 2000 engine. It's 20 years old. And the first out engine at our Castle Beach substation is a 2000 model that's 20 years old. So we really have a need to replace, this is not a want or a wish list, we need to replace 2 first out engines. After meeting with the fire truck company, we had a hurricane, Isaias. I'm sure all of you remember the tide. We had placed a fire engine to block the road. Well, the tide came up and floated the engine. Insurance company came, looked at that engine, and they totaled it out, and they've given us $300,000 in insurance premiums for that engine. So with that being said, I propose tonight we would really like to purchase 2 engines, one to replace the Castle Beach substation with the $300,000 from the proceeds from merging with Yopon Beach Fire Department, and then an additional engine with the $300,000 from the proceeds of the insurance premium. With that $600,000, then we would have to finance about $200,000. When we spoke to C.W. Williams Fire Truck Specialties, they're willing to give us a substantial discount if we order 2 engines at the same time that would be identical in the specifications. At the present, right now, they've agreed to a savings of around $20,000, but when we sit down with the specs and we look at it a little closer, they said the savings could be even a little bit more than that. So that's what I present before you tonight. I think Mike provided 2 resolutions. One resolution would have to be passed if we purchased the 1 fire truck, or the other resolution if we purchased both fire trucks, and then I would have to come back before you for the financing of the $200,000 and some. In closing, I appreciate the opportunity to serve the citizens of Southport as fire chief. I appreciate the Board of Aldermen and the city manager for all of your guidance on these projects brought before you and your consideration, and I'll answer any questions that you have tonight.
I'd had just one question. Why was there such a price discrepancy with the vendors?
Well, we wondered the same thing. The only thing that I can say is I have visited the Rosenbauer factory in South Dakota. It is a family-oriented, operated business, and they're much more efficient and cost-effective on all of their prices. So that's the only thing that I can say, but there's a huge difference in the cost of their equipment and other fire truck companies.
Mr. Eisenberg?
Charles, there's a few blanks that if the board decides to do this that we need to fill in, one with you and probably one with Melanie. You said on the blank on the build out is 6 months.
Yes, sir.
That's right. Okay, so 106 months. And then Melanie, let's see, you want to put we've got to authorize the city manager to go out and solicit for financing bids, and you said that amount would be $200,000?
It would probably be a little over $200,000.
Okay. So what do you want? What would go in there then? To 220? Is that what look right?
I would think 250 would be sufficient. I mean, does it have to be an exact amount? If it does, we'll have to.
Well, it needs to be a no more than.
Okay, then I would say 250 then. And
okay, because what I'm trying to make match in here is the resolution that I got from you said that the 2 engines would cost $820, and if we've got 600.
Well, then that would be sufficient. Then the 220.
I mean, is that right? $820 for 2?
Yes, sir. That
okay.
Should be correct.
Okay, so 220. Okay, and then Melanie, before I go over the whole resolution with the board, is this normally on fire engines? Do we do a 5-year financing? Is that right?
We would not need to finance it for 5 years.
Okay.
I would think that we could make a $50,000 payment. So what could we do? 4 years on that, maybe?
Yeah, whatever you want to go in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say 3 to 4 years.
Okay, let's do 4 to be safe.
Okay.
And would the first payment be made in fiscal year 2021? or 21, 22?
I would think that the first payment would be made in 2021. I know they gave us a cut the last time if we paid for the chassis up front, and I think we done that, if I remember correctly, Melanie. And they gave us another significant amount of money off if we pay for that up front. So I would say 2021.
Yeah, a lot of these things, I know, Melanie, you actually make the first payment back when you sign the financing, right? Sometimes. All right, so the payment's not going to be due until when, Charles, under this agreement? When it's delivered?
Yes, sir.
All right, so you're going to have that sometime in the spring. So your first payment would not be in this fiscal year then, would it? It wouldn't be in
6 months from now, still this fiscal year.
Yeah, but if the bank gives you the $220,000 and you're making annual payments, your first payment wouldn't be due for a year from there. You see what I'm saying? If they hand you the money in the spring of 21, okay, and you've got an annual payout, normally wouldn't your first payment be a year from then, Melanie? Okay, so we'll put 2021.
Well,
That's
and
fine.
Charles also said he'd pay for the chassis up front too, so that would definitely be this fiscal year.
Yeah, but that wouldn't be part of the, they're going to get all the financing at one time. Yeah, at one time. Okay, so what I need to go over with the board real quick, if you're wanting to consider this, is you've got to, I'll skip the whereases, okay? But what you're authorizing is, number one, the city will waive the formal bidding process. When there is a group purchase like this, where a group purchasing program goes out and gets better prices for many, many jurisdictions, you can waive the bidding process. And that's what we're doing here, and we've done it before plenty of times. So number one, the city waives the formal bidding provisions. Number two, the board authorizes the city manager to execute all documents required to purchase two 2021 Rosenbauer Commander fire engines at the price of $820,000 total. And number three, you authorize the city manager to solicit for and accept bids from financing institutions to complete for financing to complete the process in 4-year installments of in the amount of about no more than $220,000, with the first installment payment being due no earlier than 2021. And that would be what your resolution would be if that's the way you want to go. Now, as he said, if you only want to buy one, there's no financing. And he will come back to you on the financing. Okay, I mean, you'll get different bids with different interest rates, different prepayment penalties, different cost. And so this is just to authorize the city manager to get the financing proposals. To waive the bidding to buy the two fire engines, and we've got $600,000, and for the city manager to seek financing for the other $220,000. Okay, go.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I have another question for Charles, please, real quick. What's going to happen to engine 374? Will it be moved to another location?
That's yes, sir. We would move 374 to the Long Beach Road substation, and then we would move 371 to the downtown substation is what our plans would be.
And it sounds like 371 has some mechanical issues.
It does.
Are those able to be resolved?
The brakes have been repaired the last couple of weeks, and we've got some folks looking at the air conditioning problems as well.
So our hope is to have it fully functioning. Great. Thank you.
Sir.
And I assume you've got plenty of cash flow within your account to make the financing.
Yes, sir.
That's correct.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
The thing is trade-ins with fire trucks?
Well, there are departments that I don't know about trade-ins, but there are departments that will purchase older fire engines. I do know that because we have sold some in the past.
It'd look good in front of your house. Right, we have a motion and a second that for the, city waive the formal bidding process. The board would authorize the city manager to purchase 2 of these Rosenbauer first out engines. Be a total of $800,000, excuse me, $820,000, and this, we have $600,000 for it, and then also to authorize the city manager to solicit and accept bids for financing. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you so much.
All right, we have our next item, item 6, consideration of sewer line extension on Rhett Street, and I'll turn it over to City Manager, Mr. Hargrove.
Thank you very much, Mayor. You'll see in front of you a request for board action, and this particular action we're looking at is the Rhett Street sewer line extension. You all have this form in front of you, and I'll read it out briefly for the public that do not have this in front of them. There's a 6-inch sewer line that serves the church at the corner of Rhett and East-West Street, and also the house to the east of the church. There's a lot that is currently under contract to the south of the house. This lot has the potential to be subdivided into 3 separate lots. Regardless of how the lot is developed, the 6-inch sewer line will not be adequate to serve the property or properties. The purchaser of the property maintains that the city should pay for the installation of the new 8-inch extension. Approximate cost to do so would be $12,000. Once the 8-inch extension is made, the developer will still have to pay for an additional extension to connect to our system. This will be an additional cost of $10,000 to the property owner. In the past, the city has maintained by ordinance that sewer line extensions and connections have been the responsibility of the developer or property owner. Section 19-136(2) of the City of Southport Code of Ordinances states that each developer of land, whether subdivided or not, shall be responsible for all costs associated with the extensions of water and sewer service, including rights-of-way cost. There's some options down below that I'd like you to be familiar with, but I don't want you to get caught up in that, because in conversation with the city attorney this afternoon, this ordinance that we're looking at was adopted in 1986. It's approximately 34 years old. By ordinance, we cannot do this for an individual owner. The ordinance would have to be amended. And at this point, I'm going to defer to our city attorney, Mike, and have him weigh in his comment on it.
Gordon's right. We've got an ordinance that says each developer of land, whether subdivided or not, shall be responsible for all costs associated with the extension of sewer lines. And that ordinance was adopted in 1986. So since then, anybody who has had sewer lines that had to be extended to his property has paid for them. So if you're going to change your policy here, we would have to do an amendment to the ordinance. We can't just say we don't apply the ordinance. In our charter and our code, all ordinances have to be in writing. So I wasn't saying whether or not you should change your policy, but if you're going to change your policy, we would need to do it by ordinance. And I think you would need to do some real consideration on how you would want to change number 2. I don't think you would just delete it. Then you would have nothing. And I don't know that you would want to just say the city will pay for all sewer line extensions. So my thought is, if you want to change that, you need to do a little bit of thinking about it, and we need to be able to come back to you with a proposed ordinance amendment in writing.
One follow-up to that is if we were to change this ordinance that the city would pay for this type activity, it would be at a significant cost to the city. At this time, I'd like to give the floor up to Alderman Allen and let him start the discussion on this.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Yeah, so I brought this up, and I mean, maybe it just, in going out there, I wish I had a drawing of it. If you go out there and look at it, what we've got is a 6-inch sewer line that extends from a manhole under the street that's basically in the middle of of Rhett Street, right where West Street dead ends into it. From there, that 6-inch sewer line extends probably 30 feet or so, David, something like that, to another manhole that I believe is still in the right-of-way of Rhett Street. That's one factor in my mind, is all this is in the city right-of-way. When that 6-inch sewer line was put in, and I don't know what, it was done a long time ago. I don't know if the city did it or if we allowed someone else to put it in, but it should have been put in larger. It was, in my mind, it was inappropriately put in as a 6-inch line. It should have been an 8-inch line, because clearly it goes over. You've got the church, you got an existing house, and you've got at least 2 or 3 vacant lots. It would have been easy to see that all that needs to be serviced by this sewer line. In my opinion, we were, and I'm not casting aspersions on anybody, I don't think anybody in this room was around when the work was done, but I think we were negligent in either putting in or allowing to be put in a 6-inch line. It clearly should have been an 8-inch line. Because it's entirely within the city's right-of-way, it seems to me that in my mind, it's not really an individual service line. It's a system line. It's a city. It's part of the city main system, if you will, that other people are then going to hook up into to provide their individual service lines to, which is what this individual is going to pay for, as the manager explained. That's just in my mind, we're not paying for somebody's sewer line. We're simply upgrading our own infrastructure in order to allow additional infill development to occur, which is what we're going to need to do in the future, because we're not going to be annexing and we're not going to be growing, and we're going to have to start focusing what we can develop within our existing city borders moving forward. And to me, it just, it makes total sense for us to be doing this. But so I just.
John, are you saying that the sewer line is where it needs to be? It doesn't have to be extended, it's just too small?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So we would not need to do an ordinance change then? This is just improving the infrastructure of existing sewer line, right?
Well,
that's my view on it.
Yeah, that certainly is one view. I was thinking that it needed to be extended. Now, if that would be a question for probably David or somebody that knows a little bit more about it.
Well, David's coming up. Yeah, I mean, to me, it's our infrastructure, and we've determined that our infrastructure is not appropriate for the area that it needs to service, and therefore we need to upgrade our infrastructure. That's how I'm looking at it.
To answer your question, I spoke to DWQ. We can change out the pipe between the 2 locations to 8-inch, no problem. That's maintenance. They allow you to upsize one pipe size, but any further would involve an extension. And we all know where we're at with that right now. So that's, but per DWQ, I'm sorry for stuttering, they do allow you to change between the 2 locations the pipe size up to 8-inch. That is totally legal.
But David, does it, besides changing it out, like John was just talking about, does it have to be extended some?
Well, Tom looked into it a little further. I'm jumping in on his toes here a little bit. He did all the field work. I was just answering the question about division of water quality. He could answer more of them, more relevant than I can. He's been out there.
What has to be extended is the actual service line to provide wastewater, to provide sewer service to the individual lots, which was going to be paid for by the owner developer of those lots, not by us.
So he's not opposing paying for the extension? Okay.
He's not opposed to paying for the installation of the service line for his lots.
So we're just upgrading the existing pipe.
We're upgrading our existing pipe that I believe lies entirely in our right-of-way, doesn't it?
All right, Tom, what do you have for us?
It does, the line does. It is in the right-of-way. When the line was installed, it was put in as a service. It doesn't technically connect in between the manholes. It connects just behind the manhole on East-West Street, just before the manhole, to a small brick manhole across the street, which was the purpose to serve the church and the corner, I don't know the address, I apologize, the corner of East-West and Rhett Street. When that line was put in, it was put in as a service line, and it's completely sufficient for that service line to be serving two properties. You can have two connections to a 6-inch service line. So technically that is not a main line, it is a service line. To change it, it can be done, yes, but it's not just as simple as, okay, let's pull this 6-inch pipe out, put 8-inch pipe out. There's 2 manholes that have to be removed, 2 manholes have to be installed, the line, and then can be upsized to 8-inch, which the church can be hooked back into it, the existing property can be hooked into it, and the 2 other properties that Mr. John Allen spoke about. But back then, sure, cities could have thought in the future, hey, this may be subdivided. But my concern is, and I don't want to say anything wrong, my concern is if the city thought forward to everything that may have been subdivided in the past, where would that put us? What would that put the city paying in the future if we do this now? It's not to me, it's not that, hey, it's only $12,000 to do this. My concern is in the future, okay, well, hey, you guys paid for this, and you guys paid for that. That's where my concern lies. Now, granted, I don't have a decision in this. These are just my thoughts of how, and how the ordinance is written. And that's all I have to say.
Are there situations where we have these 6-inch lines and things like that? Is that a common occurrence around town?
For main lines, no. Main lines are 8-inch and 10-inch. Now, I'm not going to say back in the day there aren't any 6-inch lines run or any undersized lines run. I cannot say that. But the standard public sewer smallest size is 8-inch.
And is part of this need because he's going to subdivide it into 3 lots as opposed to it just being the 1 lot?
It's 1 big lot now. He's going to subdivide it into 2, but beside it, there's another small lot that will not be able to get sewer in the future. And I believe there's a lot across the street, as Alderman Spencer told me before.
No, it wouldn't matter. Nobody else can hook into this line at all. A 6-inch line can only serve 2 customers, and there's 2 customers on it right now. So,
how much could the 8-inch hold? How many, if you increase this to an 8-inch, how many additional connections could be had?
Well, for this line, it'll just be those 2. Just be those 2 that are on it now. It would then have to be, because you're just replacing this like 85 feet maybe and 2 manholes. But then it would still serve those 2 properties that are already attached to that 6-inch. Then it'd be the potential property owner to get permits with the state, to extend it to his property, to serve his lot, and then the next property owner could do the same. For all the future extensions, yes. Yes, absolutely.
How many customers can hook into an 8-inch line?
I don't think there's a minimum that I'm aware of. I don't think there's a minimum. I don't know that answer. 6 inches too. And 6-inch cannot be a main line. 6-inch is a service line, and this was put in as a service line.
Tom?
Yes, sir.
Are there any alternatives available to the city that we can use as opposed to replacing this 8-inch line to service those lots?
As it stands right now, they're deadlocked. If this line remains 6-inch, they are deadlocked. They are. Absolutely.
So is there an extension of this, if you replace the 8-inch line, and does it have to be extended? Does the city have to that's the key, extension. If it's not, then
The
it
city
could
would
be
not
an
have to
upgrade.
extend this line. The
Okay.
future property owner would have to apply for extension.
So this would just be an upgrade.
We're just upgrading and replacing existing line.
Yeah.
And the developer, homeowner, future, whatever, will extend a separate line themselves at their expense.
So, city attorney, would this affect the ordinance?
I think it's the board's decision, but I don't think now that this would require an amendment to your ordinance, because the ordinance specifically applies to the extension of sewer lines. And I was thinking, I was thinking that there was going to be an extension involved, but you're saying the extension, the property owners already agreed to pay for. Okay.
But if this isn't a main line and it's a service, you're replacing somebody else's service line. Is that?
We're replacing the 6-inch line that connects two 4-inch services. We're not replacing their service line. Their individual service line. No, ma'am.
And this is something that we haven't budgeted for because it's not broken, right? It doesn't come under repairs. It doesn't have to be repaired, right? We're just suggesting changing it out to supply water to some lots. So if we spend the $12,000, that's coming out of, what part of the budget?
It'll come out of repair and maintenance of the system, and as it stands now, it is functioning for what it's serving. Yes.
We'll gain 2 or 3 new customers, in addition to water and sewer. We'll gain property taxes as well.
Any further questions for either David or Tom?
I do. Can we research and see if we have any other 6-inch lines in this similar circumstance that are in areas where future development could happen and it can't happen unless they get upgraded to an 8-inch line? Can you just find that out before we make, before we make a decision to maybe spend the money in this one area because of this history of not upgrading a line to serve, new construction in the past, that we've, put the onus on the developer to do those things?
We can certainly look into it. Absolutely. A lot of times we don't find things until instances, come up like this. So I'm not saying it's going to be easy to, or it's going to poke us in the eye, but we can look into what we have.
Yeah, the asset that was done, evaluation, would that tell you where
It would tell
diameter
what most
lines
of
you
it is.
have?
The asset plan did not pick up every single item in Southport. Absolutely not. But it's certainly a starting point. Absolutely.
Were you aware of what size the sewer line was before this whole thing came up?
Not before we started. No, sir. Like you said, it was probably put in however many years ago, not documented, just, hey, this is going to work. They serve those 2 properties. And like I said, for its capacity, it functions well.
I know you're a miracle worker because I've seen you at work. How hard is it going to be to get back to us what she's asked for? Tell the truth. I know you will.
It's not an easy task. I'm not going to lie to you. It will not be an easy task.
What's the purpose of I think you should look into it, but is that going to affect this 85-foot that we should replace? I mean, if he has found other locations, what that has to do with this 85-foot? Still have to change it.
It sets a precedent to have to do it everywhere. I understand the
Policy
reason.
gonna be? Are we gonna always do this? Or is that gonna be the policy? You know, that's what we're trying to determine. If we have a month, could he report back in a month? If
Can
it's
you
that
do that in a month?
extremely hard and you can't give us the information, then we'll make a decision.
Can I ask, I mean, can you give us an estimate of what it's gonna take in manpower and time and effort to do this kind of a survey and come back and be able to tell us where all the 6-inch pipes are?
Considering, the workload we have now, it will not be, just as simple as dropping back and just searching. I'm not sure if it's a wise use of time to, I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I'm just with all going on, I'm just not sure it's a wise use of time, if that's an appropriate response.
If you don't have drawings, are you gonna be able to do that?
We didn't have a drawing on that, on
You
this
got to,
particular
you got to
one.
visit a lot of manholes.
You
Yeah,
got
that's
that
what I'm
right.
saying.
Right, exactly. And I visited a lot of them in town, but I'm not gonna tell you I visited every single manhole. Apparently, I haven't visited this one.
All right, so you have multiple options, board. Since you don't have to change the ordinance, you can decide to whether or not you want to make a motion to upgrade this pipe and replace it, or you can postpone your decision till you have further information, or whatever the pleasure of the board is. You have your action sheet there, and if you want to continue the discussion, Mr. Hargrove, under this new light, that would be great.
I'd like to make a motion that we proceed with the project to upgrade the portion of the sewer line in between the two manholes to an 8-inch line.
Motion by Mr. Allen and a second by Alderman Davis.
Sir?
Yeah, please, further discussion.
Okay. I think that the upgrade is going to be the appropriate action. I have a concern about taking it out of the repair fund now at this point in the fiscal year. I would rather wait till we got a little later to see if we need that money to actually make a true repair somewhere. That would be my comfort level if we looked at March, April, and we know what we have left in that fund balance, and then we could authorize it then if we're not in a situation where we need that money for an actual repair. Because it is not a repair. This is a service enhancement.
And I just point out that as we all know, time kills deals, and I suspect that if we don't do it now, there'll probably be no need to do it.
Further discussion?
So, just, Tom, so do you look at this as an infrastructure upgrade or repair, or it shouldn't have been this way anyway, and so?
Well, I think the way it was done was perfectly fine. At the time when it was done, how are they to know the lots were going to be subdivided? You can't always, you like to plan for the future, but obviously, not everything is planned for the future. It will certainly, it won't hurt. We'll get 2-3 extra lots out of it in the future. I just, again, my concern is the city going to, how much money could this cost us ongoing?
And I think my question is, if there's 3 lots involved, that's $4,000 a lot toward development. That's
plus another 10,000 though to build
right,
the service.
Well,
so
then that's
it starts
6,000.
adding up.
Yeah. But I don't.
What is the timeline on this? Is it something that has to be done right away, or?
Well, there's one person that wants to buy, that's buying one of the lots and wants to move forward. My understanding is wants to move forward quickly, and probably if it can't move forward quickly, he's probably going to go on and find something else to do. So, I mean, at some point in the future, it'll, you know, I'm sure it'll come back, but.
Has it already been subdivided?
Yeah, well, there's 3 parcels. One, he's going to build a house on right now. The other one is there for future development, and the third one I think is large enough to where it could be subdivided. There's a house on the back of it. It could be subdivided at some point in the future to possibly form a third one. But there's at least 2 buildable lots as it exists right now.
Can you describe that? Like, one of them is beside St. James AME, right? And then 2 are across the street.
Let me do this. There is an older home across the street from St. James that's had about an acre of land that's been for sale for 20 years. And it backs up to Taylor Field. These lots back up to Taylor Field. There are probably 3 of them there. And then there's a house that sits on the corner where you go into Taylor Field. So it's probably 3 blank lots that have been pretty much held useless and for I hope this is right, decades. It's sad that we didn't have the foresight to build it right the first time. My other instinct is, what kind of need would we possibly have later on at Taylor Field with a restroom or something of that nature? I don't know if that's the right location that would it come from, but we need to get, if all we're going to have is our inside the city limits in the future, we need to have it all functioning, and the use of all of it is my position on it.
So then, as a precedent, are we, back to that conversation, so are we setting a precedent for other infill lots? I guess the precedent would be that if it was an undersized infrastructure, if it was undersized infrastructure, then the infrastructure needed to be upgraded. That's the conversation we're having, versus an extension or whatever. I mean, David, would it be right to say that within our city limits, sewer is available everywhere? Is that not true?
No, ma'am. Yopon Extension, it only goes halfway down. I've been approached the 15 years I've been here by Joey Pierce, Dale McPherson, trying to, do, and like we told them, we bring up the ordinance. You have to pay to have it extended. So Yopon's one. We just added a section over on 13th Street. Cameron Smith put it in with an extension. He just did a sewer main extension. So that area on the other side of 13th was one that we just did. The only thing about this I will bring up, we are with DWQ right now under a moratorium. So we wouldn't be able to do the main line extensions right now until we get that resolved.
It's acting.
The main line maintenance is totally legal. We can do that right now between the 2. I talked to Dean Hunkley myself just last week, and he gave me the okay on that. That's totally legal. We can do that.
But you would distinguish that this infrastructure as a main line separate from, say, the Yopon extension? Would you be considering those 2 different kinds of lines?
Well, both of them are extension of, after Yopon, the 8's already there. They just got to be extended on the road.
To analogize this to Yopon would be, we have an existing line on Yopon that just goes a certain distance. If let's say it was 6 inches, which would not be sufficient to serve new development along Yopon, that existing 6-inch segment that's currently in the ground would have to be upgraded to 8-inch. which is what we're doing here. Whereas to make Yopon fully functional, you'd have to extend new line further down, which, to go back to this example, is what the developer is going to be doing themselves. So in that particular case, this does not set a precedent for that. I'm not saying it won't set a precedent somewhere else, but if you look at the two places like that, then you can, it kind of, I think, helps contextualize how each one of them relates to the other.
If our service line doesn't allow someone to pay for the extension, then we should bring it up to code.
Any further questions or discussions?
I really think it's best to look at this as a citywide policy and take the time to examine what areas we might have that we want to do the same thing, and then we just make that decision in a systematic way. I mean, stormwater, right? We need to look at stormwater in a systematic way and not pick and choose certain neighborhoods that will make little improvements because the overall effect. I would just ask that we take some time and do it in a systematic way and figure out how we can do it to better the system overall so that we will realize the full potential of the use of the lots and everything instead of just the, you know, a very quick reactionary type of move today. Just take some time to look at it, bigger picture.
Yes, and the city manager has expressed that, you know, our stormwater issue is a citywide. It needs to be looked at globally, so to speak, and we will need some engineering help with that. But at the present time, we have a motion and a second for.
I've still got another question. I'm sorry.
Okay, sure, that's fine.
And following up on something that Laura's saying, or what Laura's saying, is my question would be not necessarily for you today, y'all to do an evaluation of all the different, where everything is, but the different types of circumstances. If you could tell us, you know, this is an infrastructure circumstance that's a 6-inch, it's undersized. When that comes, when those come up, this is what we should do. You know what I'm saying? Like a policy conversation that then, if tonight we were going to do this tonight, we would be doing it based on this is the policy when we come across a 6-inch line, you know, so we had some policy maybe for the different scenarios. I don't know what that would be, or is that the only scenario?
We'll take a look at our overall drawings. The best of our knowledge, we were just over there trying to think a little bit. We really don't know of any right offhand, but we will take a serious look at the 1913 drawings are a mystery to us, and we're finding new stuff all the time. Just, you know, it's a challenge, and it's been a challenge for all these years. But we will evaluate our system a little further and see if we can identify any more. But right offhand, there's none out there reaching out at us that we have problems with, that we're basically aware of.
What I'm asking too is, are there other situations other than just having a 6-inch line that's a problem that you have to repair infrastructure for subdivision, you know, to make it bigger or different or whatever? Do those situations, are there other situations rather than just a 6-inch line?
Well, yeah. I mean, for an example, when the subdivisions come in, they do flow tracking. They look at what station it goes to, the next one it goes to, and we evaluate stations and flow accordingly. We don't overcapacitate none of our pump stations. You know, that's part of flow tracking. There's a mechanism in place to gauge that. The engineers look at it, and we look at our lines. So we're basically not putting more flow to them than they can handle.
No, I guess what I was trying to say is there other scenarios where you have to improve infrastructure in order to be able to extend a line?
Just, the only
just-
ones I know about, Karen, are,
6-inch pipes.
was this 6-inch, there's none aware right now with the, we'll do an evaluation and see what we can come up with, but none that that are jumping out at us. If that makes any sense to you, that's what I'm trying to explain.
Okay, any further questions? Yes, at some point we can look at the totality of stormwater and sewer, and we will have to upgrade our sewer to a certain level, and that's going to be an ongoing, continuing process. But again, the motion at hand, whether or not.
And Mike, from a legal standpoint, is there any, if we do this precedent-wise, does that establish some sort of precedent if somebody else comes and we have to upgrade infrastructure and then we have to debate about what it is?
No, I mean, it depends on how you've determined this, and from talking to them, what they've requested is not an extension of our line, it's just an upgrade of our own line in order that it can then be extended by the property owner, correct? Okay, so, no, they're just asking for an extension of our line. I mean, what's your other choice? Let them build septic tanks? I mean, because you can't, you know, if they meet all your ordinances, you can't prohibit them from developing their property. You would have to permit them to do septic tanks, I would think. And I know you don't want to do that.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I'm having trouble with. If you do find another 6-inch line and you have people who want to connect in, what choice do we have? We have to upgrade it. So I don't know why we would hold this up.
We're going to have to upgrade our sewer system anyway, and this is just part of that process, and it's a hard process, it's an expensive process, but we're learning, we're discovering, we're finding that, you know, these pipes that were put in, they were not put in for the future. They were put in, wouldn't you say, Alderman Allen, to fit that spot at that time.
And budget-wise, Melanie, what, it's $12,000. What does that mean budget-wise? So I said 12,000.
So we have a motion and a second.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
good.
I'm just going to say, I wish that from a budgetary standpoint that we would know the impact or have some kind of standing from a budget standpoint. I mean, there's still funding in those accounts that's not obligated. But you've not already had the emergency, that's what I'm asking.
All in favor of this repair? Any opposed? Okay, so one opposed. Motion carried. Thank you. Good discussion. next item, and that is the Yacht Basin pedestrian. And Mr. Hargrove.
Once again, I'm going to give you a little bit of background for all those still left in the audience about the pedestrian corridor in the Yacht Basin. During the Memorial Day holiday, city staff installed a temporary pedestrian corridor that extended from the Caswell Bay Street intersection to the corner of Yacht Basin Drive and Westmore Street at Fishy Fishy to increase pedestrian safety. Additionally, Bay Street West was made a one-way road and Yacht Basin North was made one-way. The pedestrian corridor was well received by the business owners and the public. The Board of Aldermen voted to make the pedestrian corridor a permanent fixture. However, shortly after preliminary markings were painted on the road to identify the corridor, the Yacht Basin started experiencing flooding during high tide as a result of the king tides that periodically inundate the area. It must be noted that the area is susceptible to flooding during normal high tides. While local businesses in the Yacht Basin support the pedestrian corridor, there have been concerns raised about Bay Street and Yacht Basin Drive becoming one-way streets. The specific objection is that during times of above average tidal flow, vehicles can continue to travel through Bay Street into the standing salt water, and when they have to make a right on Yacht Basin Drive, they see that the water gets deeper and oftentimes attempt to turn around and go back up Bay Street the wrong direction. This is a concern to area businesses and also impacts pedestrian safety because there is not enough room for a pedestrian corridor and two-way traffic. So the primary concerns here are that there is concern among some business owners about the one-way streets. We have some alternatives I'd like you to consider tonight. We can continue to move forward with the board-approved pedestrian corridor. Likely outcome is we're going to have to get continued complaints about the plan because of its traffic direction. We could pause number two, we could pause the project and look at possible alternatives that will allow property business owners and residents an opportunity to give their opinions on what they would like the entire Yacht Basin to look like. The likely outcome of this is it would give everyone a voice and promotes transparency in the process of what we vision the Yacht Basin to look like. It also gives the city, with input from stakeholders, time to create a vision on what that should look like. The specific action that I'm requesting tonight is that the city staff has no authority to stop the project because it was a board voted and approved action. City staff is asking for direction on how to proceed. I'll let you take up the conversation and discuss and decide which way you'd like me to go.
If y'all don't mind, if I'll just start, and I'll say that I really like what we're doing so far. To me, the obvious way to improve what's going on is to simply block off Bay Street at Caswell when the Yacht Basin area is flooding. And if what we can easily do, I think, is follow up. Mr. Swenson kind of gave me this idea earlier. He said that the Yacht Basin starts flooding when we have a tide above 5.1 feet. It's very easy to look up tides weeks in advance and see what they're going to be. On those days when we anticipate a flooding high tide, we can have police or public works simply go down and put some cones down or block the street off in whatever fashion needs to be done, and then come back, you know, after we reach, you know, whatever midpoint of between high and low tide or whatever, come back and take them and pick them up. But I'd really like to, I think it's, we've had a huge safety issue down there with pedestrian and vehicle conflicts, and I think what we've done is made it a whole lot better.
I definitely agree, and you know, we're talking about a line that could be taken away, or let's try it and see what happens. I don't see changing it at this point.
You know, I do think that comprehensive strategic long-term plan. We know that we need that for the Yacht Basin and overlay district that would incorporate all design and all of that, but that's something in the future, and this is an immediate something that we can do in the interim that doesn't, it's not really an expensive thing, and I talked with the police chief about it, and he agrees that it's a safer approach to that area, right, Chief? And so I think I agree with John. What John?
Follow up on Alderman Allen's suggestion about, blocking it off when we know that there's going to be a high tide. Who's responsible for doing that?
Our police officers.
Police?
I'd say either police or public works could probably do it. I don't, or,
I'd feel better if we had definite clarity right now to be sure that it's going to happen.
Sure, the city manager could discuss it with the police chief and Mr. Fox and figure out some kind of a plan for it.
I believe if we're going to put barricades up, that should be a job done by Public Works. They have the vehicles and the equipment to put that in place. Where police department's not really set up to carry a whole lot of bulky material like that. So Alderman Davis, if it makes you feel better tonight, I think that would be the direction that I would go. I would task Public Works and work closely with them to determine when those tides would be in, and then we would block it off during that time period. Guys, I'm sorry, I know you got a lot on your plate, but we're going to have to do that.
Thank me later.
If I may, tonight was the first comments I heard that were against keeping it one way. That's the first time. I spoke to management at Fishy Fishy. They were comfortable with one-way traffic. The Southport Boat Rentals, Eli, they're comfortable there, and Royce Potter at Potter Seafood, and I talked about it, and he said it was good. Where we had some hiccups is communication. I did give feedback that we did not communicate when that was going into effect and things like that very well. And I think the newspaper commented on that. There was an editorial that was a bit of a surprise for some folks. We didn't get the word out very well. And we don't have a lot of signs to kind of communicate that that's a change. So if you were here a month ago and now you came, you might have been confused. So we need to do better maybe with some signage and markings of the actual pedestrian path. And I think maybe we should look into investigating the cost of some of the signs, that the high water signs that have flashing lights or something for the future, so that people could get a warning at Lord Street intersection or something if there's high water, and make their diversion turn or something early. But I don't see any reason for us to change something that we put in motion that's a good safety feature for the community.
I'll entertain a motion. Yeah, motion not to change it for the. Yeah, but you do need a motion in terms of the barricades and that type of thing. Monitoring the high tides. I mean, you know what I'm saying? City plans to monitor the high
A motion
tides.
to ask the city manager to set up a plan whereby the Public Works Department will monitor high tides and place barricades at Bay Street to prevent vehicles from traveling past Caswell in the event of high water in the Yacht Basin.
By Mr. Lombardi. Any further discussion? And I think we should say that the barricade could be put on whatever streets necessary, not just, Bay. I know what you mean, Alderman, so, yeah.
And just
Yeah.
for a slight, there are sensors I'm sure there's sensors out there that could tell us when these high tides and these blinking lights that were discussed, maybe we could take the manpower out of it and just have signs that are automated when there's a high tide, and take out the obligation, spend a little bit of money to take the burden off of Public Works, because they have got the burden.
What would be really cool is to put in a sensor and a gate. And when the sensor reads the water at a certain level, you have an automatic gate like a railroad crossing that just comes down.
Yes, Chief, please. Please, thank you.
Good evening. Just to add in while you're talking about the fact or the signs, a couple weeks ago when we had the high tide, I did consider the tide on this because I've lived here all my life and I've seen people, believe it or not, it excites people when the tides come through. It was probably about 3 weeks ago on a Saturday, some people called my phone and said, Chief, there's a bunch of water on the road in front of Mr. Tommy Harrelson's house. So I drove down there in my personal vehicle and I parked, and when I got there were like 9 vehicles blocking Bay Street. The tide was over Bay Street at Mr. Tommy's house all the way down to Provisions and all the way back around. There were 9 vehicles I counted. I pulled over, didn't identify myself, I just watched. They took pictures of the road and the salt water. Then they drove through it down around Paul and Maria's place and went to Fishy Fishy. So they drove through that high water. So I just want y'all to understand, and I'll work with the public work to put some kind of a gating mechanism, because I know it might be late at night, so we can go down there and put it up. We'll be more than happy to do that, but just know that people, I hate to say it, but it must attract them down there. They like to drive through it. So we have to tell them not to drive through it. So just wanted to let you guys know that, but we will certainly work in possible to help mitigate that. But just wanted to let you know signs and cones are not always an option. We'll do our best to try to get the message out, or I can sit down and do a story with the paper maybe just to try to encourage folks to understand, everything that's going on with regards to that. So I just wanted to weigh in.
Well, obviously 100% compliance is never going to happen.
No,
so
sir. No,
we
sir.
all know that.
Right. So, but appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, any opposed? Excellent, motion carried. I think that's a wise decision by the board to continue to keep the Yacht Basin as safe as possible, and I think this is one way of doing it, so thank you. Next item is our city dock discussion. Mr. Hargrove.
Once again, you have a board action form in front of you, and I'll read it again, a little bit of background on the city dock for those that don't have it in front of them. The Southport City Dock was damaged during Hurricane Matthew. The city received funds from both FEMA and the Golden Leaf Foundation to repair the dock. A CAMA major permit was filed to repair the dock, which required a riparian line agreement with adjacent property owners, Admiral Holdings and the Southport Marina. At this point, the city has been unable to come to an agreement on a mutually acceptable riparian line due to conflicting surveys. As a result, the process has been significantly delayed. On August 3rd, Hurricane Isaias made landfall near Southport, which resulted in additional damage to the city dock. Additionally, several coastal areas were damaged, which resulted in CAMA issuing a blanket permit for general repair of up to 50% of the structure without having to go through the CAMA major permit. A couple of things I'd like for y'all to consider tonight and give me direction on. The options we have are the city can continue to push along the CAMA major permit with the Division of Coastal Management, or the city can move forward and concentrate with repairing 50% of the city dock, or the city can tear down the pier. But if the city does so, we will never be able to replace it, put anything back there. Some of the unknowns that we're facing right now, I know it's hard to make a decision on what 50% will be, but we do not know what that will be at this point. We have a meeting with DCM on October 15th to determine what 50% of that repair will look like. Another unknown is that we still don't know when an acceptable riparian agreement will be made with the adjacent property owners. The effects to the golden leaf and FEMA funding, none as of now. We've had to request a few extensions. So what I am asking from the board tonight is direction on how you would like me to proceed. I think the best option at this particular point in time is to look at the 50% repair. We can continue to push forward the CAMA major permit and see what happens with that. However, I think the 50% repair would be something that we could move fairly quickly with. One of the problems that we're experiencing down there is that the dock was damaged. There was additional damage to the dock as a result of Hurricane Isaias, and it's in really bad shape. There is some risk and some liability issues there with the amount of damage with the planking breaking loose. I think we need to move forward on it and do so as quickly as possible, but I would like to know what the board's pleasure is. Thank you.
Mr. Hargrove, that dock certainly has taken a beating. The picture in the pilot, you'd almost call it an airstrike and start over. I mean, it just looks terrible. It really does. So what would be the board's pleasure in this regard? Tear it down, build back to 50%,
Well,
wait till,
we got an email today, city manager got an email from the adjacent neighbor. Mike, I don't know, and it was a riparian line agreement that had been agreed upon back in '06, it looked like.
I was at the meeting at the City Hall, and I didn't really get to look at it, but it is not the same line agreement that you and
No,
I
I know,
prepared.
I know.
Okay.
But it is one that would accommodate the new permit, I think, looking at it.
But they're not going to give us a new permit if we can't get an agreement on both sides.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that what the deal is?
50%, fix it fast.
I have a question. I mean, if we go with the 50%, that doesn't prevent us from also trying to get the major permit to go forward with what else we wanted to do, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
So I want full disclosure here. If we cannot come to a riparian line agreement with both adjacent property owners, DCM will issue what they think is the correct riparian line. If it's not acceptable to the adjacent property owners, they will probably, I guess the right word is, protest it, and our permit will be denied. And at that point, we can ask for a variance, I believe, is what's true, and that we have been led to believe that that will probably be successful. This variance, appeal for a variance, will be successful.
So do we need a motion about all of this? Are we still in discussion?
But are you saying, but I think to be clear with the board, you're saying if we go ahead with the 50% alternative, that's not prejudicing us proceeding on the CAMA permit? Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
That,
What do you need?
Motion that we authorize the city manager to move forward with getting repairs of 50% of the city dock based on the ruling from DCM.
and then pursue also the major, would you do that?
I would wait until he comes back and we know that we have riparian right agreements or we don't or whatever, but this would be the first step. That's the motion I'm gonna make right now. The first step is, let's authorize the city manager and director of Parks and Recs to pursue a 50% repair of the city dock, removal of the old, stuff that is no longer useful.
I do like this and I do have a second on that. I do like this because we can protect our position no matter what. And if we need to move forward with something else,
Well,
we've got a stronghold.
But we should continue to try to reach a additional riparian right agreement that would allow us to then, assuming let's say we rebuild 50%, we need to continue to work on the riparian rights issue in hopes that at some point down the road, we can expand the dock beyond the 50%.
Well, no, you can do 50% every year is my understanding under the CAMA agreement. So that doesn't preclude us repairing, although I don't think the Corps is going to let us put new pilings in the channel portion, so the LDOC will stop short of what it is now at some point. But what I was saying was, if to go ahead and pursue the major permit, we've put all this effort in it. Once you have it, whether you need it immediately or not. You would the major permit, you would have it on file. Doesn't mean we don't. I say continue the 50%, but also do that so we have it on file in the future, for the future, because we've already invested in it.
So this is like a two-prong. First, we go with the 50%, but we're also looking for the major. Okay. Is that what our motion is? No.
Would you accept that as a friendly amendment, Alderman Sharkey?
I guess I'm just trying to think about, is there any language that we need to be reflective of the funding we have available right now in consideration of any of this?
No, we wouldn't necessarily act on that major permit. I mean, who knows when you get it. But once we have it, if in the future something happens, that is good. Once you've got the permit, you've got the permit.
Let me amend the motion to authorize the city manager to move forward with the repair of 50% of city dock as ruled by DCM, with the added responsibility of pursuing a major permit with CAMA for future expansion.
Motion, and we have a second by Mr. Spencer. Any further discussion on building back 50% while also pursuing a major permit?
Hopefully we're beginning the 50% process, and next year we'll do the other 50.
Okay. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is the committee reports. Planning Board, any reports?
Sir, yes, sir. Thank you. After almost 2 years of work, the updated Unified Development Ordinance that was adopted last month is available on the city website. I would again like to recognize the Planning Board members for the hundreds of volunteer hours they donated for this project, and our city planner, Thomas Lloyd's work with the Cape Fear Council of Governments zoning consultant, Wes McLeod. And to restate, the UDO is a living, breathing document, and when I say that, it's that with many changes, many of these changes came from deficiencies from the previous edition. So in addition to the changes, the updated UDO has been reorganized and reformatted to be more user-friendly and clearer. The Unified Development Ordinance is the implementation tool for the city's policies and goals contained within officially adopted plans, including the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan we refer to is the CAMA land use plan. All of our zoning and development decisions must be supported by our comprehensive plan. And part of the UDO update project also included updating portions of the CAMA land use plan. Please mark your calendars. The Board of Aldermen and the public review meeting regarding the proposed updates for the CAMA land use plan is scheduled for Tuesday, October 13th at 2:30 here at the community building.
Thank you. Mr. Lombardi.
Yeah, beautification, we had a cleanup on Saturday. This past Saturday, we had about 25 volunteers. We did some planting and mulching and some weeding in various locations. We intend to have some pop-up days during the month, things that come up and things that have to be attended to. We just call people and they show up and we get it done. I urge everybody to go to the pollinator garden if you haven't. It's really shaping up. It's at Low White Park, and it's becoming quite a project.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Flo Davis.
Forestry Committee meets at 5 next Tuesday.
Thank you. Alderman Sharkey.
Rate Committee met this week, and we discussed how properties with solar panels are metered in the billing that is assigned to that. We had a very good informational session with Ellie Pittenger, and the committee is requesting staff reach out to Brunswick Electric to see if they could bring forward the renewables billing person to do a full presentation to the board here as soon as possible, because we think we may want to reconsider the city's policy, but we need more information on what Brunswick Electric does.
Good report. Mr. Spencer. Alderman Allen. Okay, all right, thank you. City Manager report.
So I'd like to start out and thank everybody, the residents of Southport, for their patience during the debris removal process. We are moving toward the end. Like I said, I really appreciate everybody's patience. If you have any concerns or questions, or your debris has not been picked up, please call City Hall. I believe that number's 910-457-9700. One of the things, 79? Okay. 7900. 457-7900. Okay, yeah, so sorry, I'm still new learning all the numbers. So one of the concerns that I get a lot is, a lot of people are concerned why they were last to be picked up, and unfortunately everyone can't be first. So we have duly noted the process and who was picked up first and who was going last, and we'll try to reverse that around the next time it happens. I would hopeful that it never happens again, but I think we all know that it will. Another complaint that we're getting is we're not picking up on private streets, not city-owned streets. So that is not a City of Southport rule, that is a FEMA rule. I want you to understand that we understand that this is an equity issue. The alderman, the mayor, and myself are going to be looking at different methods that we can do or try to maybe prevent that from happening in the future. I won't make any promises that we can fix that, but we will certainly try and look at it. The one thing that I will encourage the HOAs that have not turned over their streets to the city is to continue to make improvements to them so that we'll take it over. That's the surefire way to make sure that we get your debris the next time something like this happens. I don't know if anyone has been down to Taylor Field, but we got quite the debris field full of chips. It's a large quantity, so now it's come to the time that we have to move those chips. And the cost for moving these chips, the transportation cost is $62,250. The good thing about this is that the people we're taking them to are going to pay us approximately $27,000 for the chips, which is going to give us a net cost of transportation and clearing that field out of about $38,250. When we went back and looked at the contracts that we originally signed, there are no methods for change orders in the contract, and there are no provisions for disposing of the chips like we're doing. As you all know, my authority level for approving contracts only goes up to $30,000. So before I move forward with that and sign that contract, I'm going to need board approval to move those chips out of there. for $38,250. So I'm looking for a motion this evening to authorize me to sign that contract. So I'd like y'all to consider that now before I go on to my next item.
So moved to make the motion that you're authorized to spend up to $40,000 to move the chips if necessary.
Second. And I assume that's a FEMA eligible reimbursement? Perhaps,
Unfortunately,
maybe one day.
What will actually happen, FEMA doesn't like us to make any money off that, so that $27,000, if this is ever declared a Category A, C, and on through the alphabet federal emergency declaration, they will take that out of our reimbursement.
We'll get the net amount.
Right.
Is there any news on what's happening with the declaration of disaster?
No, sir, and that goes back to talking about when we're talking about the $12,000 for the sewer. We've already committed $700,000 for the House Street sewer. We're probably looking at, when we're done with this hurricane, now y'all hold on, this is a large number. We're probably going to have about $1 million of our fund balance into this cost recovery from this hurricane. So it's been a significant impact on our budget.
Hopefully, most or all of that would be reimbursable if a disaster declaration is made.
That is correct. We have met the threshold, the statewide threshold for damage, so there's really no reason that the federal government won't make the declaration. I feel pretty confident. I'm not going to bet your paycheck on it, but I feel pretty confident that they're going to make a declaration here pretty soon. At least I hope they do.
Okay, we have a chip removal motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Okay, motion carried. Thank you.
So the last thing I want to talk to you about this evening, I'm sure y'all have heard me speak enough tonight. As you all know, I emailed you the county's response about our sewer service area agreement. Nothing has really changed. We're going to keep what we currently have, and we are going to. That's really the gist of it. Nothing's changed. The county is agreeable to, at some point in the future, to taking over our system. I would like to. Our attorneys right now have the agreement in hand, and so they're doing all the whereas and therefores, and to make sure that it's a good contract with the county. I think as soon as we get that back, we should have an opportunity to read it, and then I'm anticipating next week. I think that we probably need to have a special meeting to talk about the sewer service agreement. And so, but we'll have to, once we get that contract in hand, we'll have a little bit better idea when we can do that. So that's all I have for this evening. Do y'all have any questions for me? Thank you.
Very brief. There was a Southport family that won the King Mackerel tournament, the Broadwell family, Andy Broadwell of Southport. So make sure you see this great picture in the Stateport Pilot. Morgan took a great picture. Make sure you tell her. So we're very proud that someone local won. In terms of Think Pink, I want to thank all of you who are wearing or will be wearing pink this month. We should remember First Lady Betty Ford, who was diagnosed with breast cancer in September of 1974. At that time, there was not Breast Cancer Awareness Month or guidelines. She went public with her illness when this disease remained in the shadows and not talked about. There was a photo a week after her surgery where Ms. Ford is seen tossing a football to her husband, President Gerald Ford, who played football for Michigan. And that was released to show the country that she was recovering and to reassure her thousands of well-wishers. So I appreciate everyone who is supporting breast cancer awareness this month. Again, I want to thank Chief Drew for Fire Prevention Week and what his firefighters are doing, their diligence in promoting fire safety. Make sure you watch their videos. Make sure smoke detectors are working properly. And again, call the fire department if you need help with that. The Cape Fear Regional Jetport. You may have seen an article in the State Port Pilot that the Will Plentel Award for Excellence in Airport Management was presented to Howie Franklin, the Jetport manager and former Chief Steward on Air Force One. He served 5 presidents. The First Lady and I attended, and it was a well-deserved tribute to Mr. Franklin. The Jetport is certainly one of the crown jewels in our area. The new terminal, if you've not seen it, is a showcase, a product Mr. Franklin's vision and the cooperation of state and local officials such as Senator Rabin, Representative Aller, the county commissioners, the Brunswick County Airport Commission, and the surrounding municipalities. The airport is a driver of our local economy in many ways, from tourism to jet fuel. It is hospitality at its finest, and we're so proud of Mr. Franklin and his staff. In terms of the weather tower, as you know, it's been removed. You can see the article in the pilot. We have $10,000 in donations to date. Visit the city website, cityofsouthport.com, to view the video that explains the history of the weather tower and how you can support the historic preservation. In terms of COVID-19, watch the video update on the city website, again, cityofsouthport.com. Please continue public health mitigation measures, facial covering, avoid large crowds, social physical distancing. Outdoor activities are safer than indoor activities. Wash your hands. Yesterday, 32 states in our country were seeing rising levels of cases. The virus is not going to go away. This is not political. It is a medical and public health issue that has far-reaching implications. So thank y'all for being diligent. City newsletter. First issue is out online. Read it on the website. I want to thank all those involved and who contributed to its publication. It's one more way we can communicate with you, our citizens, and those who are interested in our community. The Mayor Pro Tem has already talked about the UDO. Great job. Vote. In 2016, 138 million Americans voted in the presidential election. That is 58.1% of the voting eligible population. In North Carolina, 64.9% of the voting eligible population voted. In Brunswick County, it was a little bit better, close to 70% of the voting eligible population voted in 2016. So please get out there and vote. Everyone get out there and vote. Election day is Tuesday, November 3rd. Regular voter registration ends tomorrow, which is Friday, October 9th. You can register and vote in person at one-stop sites during the early voting period, which runs from October 15th to October 31st. The Brunswick Center on House Street in Southport will be open during this time for early voting, and will be open for voting on Election Day. Mask and distancing when voting, remember. Our city manager, Mr. Hargrove, has been here 4 months. Remember, his first day was a Board of Aldermen meeting on June 11th, 2020. We have faced many challenges together. Just the amount of time and money spent on debris removal due to the hurricane has been a daunting task. There's been that and more. He has risen to the challenge, as have the city employees, and I want to thank Mr. Hargrove and all our city employees for working towards, as the city manager stated in his newsletter, a culture of excellence. And I appreciate the efforts of every employee who has risen to the occasion. We are moving forward, and we are adding to our list as we complete each project, large and small. So thank you, Mr. Hargrove, and thank you, Board. Next, the committee reports are in your packet, and next up we'll have board comments. Mr. Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I mostly just want to echo a lot of what you just said real quickly. Do want to encourage everyone to vote. One thing you can do that I didn't even realize, but if you vote by mail, you can actually go online and track your ballot and find and get notification that it was received by your local Board of Elections. I actually helped my 96-year-old father do that. He mailed his in, and I was able to go online and confirm that it had been received at the his local Board of Elections office. So it's a pretty cool thing that I wasn't even aware of. So I know that some people probably have, you know, there is some trepidation to drop in your ballot in the mailbox and wondering what's going to happen to it, but you can actually track it and get confirmation that it was received. Want to echo what the mayor said about the city manager and all the city employees. I guess we've gotten where we do this about every month, but I don't think we can do it too often. Everybody is doing such a fantastic job. It's been a very stressful year for everybody, and we've had a lot of our employees just go so far above and beyond, you know, what they have to do doing what everything they really can do, and it's been very gratifying, I think. And then one last thing, if I can do this, I wasn't going to, but I guess I will. The mayor mentioned Betty Ford was diagnosed in the fall of 1974 with breast cancer, and my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer about 2 months after that. And she died in 1975 when she was 50 years old. And it's great that we have the advancements that we've had in treatment so that women in her position don't have to die prematurely. It's been one of the most wonderful things, I think, about improvements in technology and medical care over the course of our lifetime. Is what's being done. Medical treatment's just amazing today. So thank you.
Thank you for those comments, and we empathize with you about losing your mom, but that was a time when breast cancer survival was not what it is today, and the screening was not there, the treatment was not there. So thank you for that, and thank you for your other comments. Mr. Spencer.
I apologize, but I will not be short. And thank you for sharing that. I've just changed my order of identifying. My mother too has gone through breast cancer, and I'm blessed to still have her, and I cannot imagine. There'll be some other things I'll mention along the way. This has been a very hard week for me, but start with an ounce of gratitude and go from there. And I'm with you. I almost want to cry at the idea that we're actually going to do something with the city dock. The slogan, Nike, just do it. Thank God we can just do it. The landing and the clearing for the dredge spoils, we're working on that for Ms. Peepers, right? You're on that. They're building berms, and Rome wasn't built today, but you're on it, and I know that. It's sort of like Tom and David are on Public Works. And yes, everybody deserves credit, but we squeeze every ounce of blood out of them daily. And I don't know why they're still nice to me and friendly to me. So I really want to say that we've got to keep our eye on Public Works. There's some things that need to be taken care of at Public Works that get left by the wayside. That the drop yard that they have over there, the facilities they have, we never identify we've got to take care of Public Works, and along with a lot of other city. The hard ones. I grew up on Cape Fear Drive. It was dominated by children. We rode bicycles. We blocked the streets. The post lady used to come through, and we would block her from coming through. Luckily, it was Annelle Royal, and she didn't report us. But it was full of children. Cape Fear Drive was a very special place for me. And this week, very strangely, we've lost 2 Cape Fear Drive residents, parents. When I talked about it takes a village last month, Larry Hemby. This month, first Miss Joyce Hewitt, who was a career 4th grade school teacher. She was also a mother of friends that have grown up in Southport with me. Will with the planning board. Next door was Bill and Cheryl Miller, and in the same week, Miss Joyce has passed, and Mr. Bill Miller has passed. It's sort of strange that they live 20 years next door to each other, and they'll probably be buried 100 feet from each other. It's very strange at the same time. But there is new generations coming. The thing about these two people, and I got it in my mind, and I still can't figure it out, and Mr. Bill especially, charter member of the rescue squad, fireman, police officer, what makes a person become a lifetime public servant? What is that kind of character? Why? How do they come to be that? It's what Southport was built on. And I'm so proud to say that Mr. Bill, Miss Joyce was a mother of the neighborhood. Mr. Bill was a father of the neighborhood, and life is changing. And I want to show respect to the Ewitts, and then the Millers, Miss Cheryl, Charlie, and Davy, and family. And we will miss them both. And I appreciate you letting me have the mic.
Sharkey.
Mayor Hayden, tonight I know I asked some difficult questions and things. I was asking people if they could provide me information that may be difficult, if not impossible. I'm trying to figure out how we can grow in a systematic way and not be haphazard. It's not a reflection on current staff. And certainly not anybody that was here tonight trying to answer my questions. I appreciate everything you guys always do. I just worry that when we are asked to make a decision, when we maybe don't have all the information we would like to have, we may have ramifications later that make jobs difficult for people, because there's going to be expectations about roads or debris pickup, or something's broken, and if it's not been deeded to the city or whatnot, then it's going to be very challenging for those taxpayers to understand why. And so I would like us in the future just to do what we can to be in depth with our investigations and thoughtful with our plans on how we provide service and fill out the city limits, because we are going to be operating within a certain parameter and filling in those empty spaces, but let's do it in a methodical, holistic way is all I ask. And I know you guys will do the best you can, because you always do. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Alderman Davis, please.
I just want to say, from time to time I hear people gripe about having to pay a fee for Dozier Hospital. It's on our property tax. Well, you get your money's worth. Let me tell you, I've just had a personal experience, and the sanitation or the sanitizing is extraordinary. The staff is kind, efficient, professional, and cheerful. So I'm really glad that we've got this hospital here, and we should treasure it and support it.
Thank you, Alderman Davis, for that. We should cherish that hospital, and I'm grateful to be mayor for many reasons, but also to be able to help to keep our hospital strong and independent and giving high quality care, compassionate care. So thank you for those remarks.
Besides being freezing in here, thank you everybody for all your hard work.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Mayor, I have just a quick announcement. Sydney's Halloween Bowser Bash. Okay, last year we had it in October. It was hugely successful, hugely fun at the waterfront. We're in the COVID world, but never fear, you can participate. The City of Southport and the State Port Pilot have partnered again this year for the annual Sydney's Halloween Bowser Bash. This year will be a little different. They're going virtual, but it's still going to be fun. So you can submit pictures of your pets in costumes to kmarshall@cityofsouthport.com. The information is available on the city's Facebook page and the city website. From now until, you can submit these photos from now until October 25th. The pet party will debut on October 31st on the city Facebook page and website. So be sure to send in your pictures with your pets in costume and share the smiles and cuteness with everybody. It'll be a good Halloween treat for everybody in this COVID world. So let's have some fun.
Thank you. And Alderman Davis, you reminded me of something that I meant to mention, and it's very brief but very important. We've had interim CEO and an interim president at Dozier Hospital. Fortunately, they are now, that interim is off their title. So Dr. Brad Heileman will be the CEO of our hospital, and Linda Stanley will be president of our hospital. We're grateful for their service as we continue to move forward with Dozier Hospital. It's important to me. It's important to all of us. It's important to Randy. He is on the board, and his family's legacy, and First Lady's on the foundation board of the hospital. So I want to recognize them, and again, thank you for those comments. And are there any further comments before I ask for a motion to adjourn? I'll entertain a motion. Okay. All in favor? The meeting adjourned. Thank you.